Hi everyone, welcome back to Gastronomy Games. Today we are cooking meatless, making roasted summer squash with olive tapenade and a white bean and thyme puree. This can be served hot or cold as an appetizer, hors d'oeuvre, or even a main course, and is sure to satisfy the vegans and meat lovers in your life alike. So without any further ado, let's get to the kitchen. We're going to start with our tapenade. Tapenade is a Provençal spread traditionally made with olives, capers, and anchovies. Today we are going to be keeping the anchovies out so that our spread remains vegan. This is an unbelievably versatile condiment, so experiment with different herbs, olive varietals, or additional ingredients such as chilies, anchovies, or sun-dried tomatoes. Tapenade is made most easily in a blender or food processor, but you can use a mortar and pestle, or even just finely chop all the ingredients together. Tapenade goes excellently with bread, pastas, fish, or even a dip with crudité. If kept in an airtight container, this will keep at least 10 days in your fridge. Next up, we're going to prep our zucchini and yellow squash. I'm going to be using a knife to cut the squash, but a mandolin will make the job even easier if you are not comfortable with a knife. Whether you use a knife or a mandolin, start by taking off the top and bottom of the squash, then slice into medium thin strips, cutting the full length of the squash. If the squash has a curve, place the squash curved side down, pressing gently to stabilize the vegetable before you cut. This will keep the squash from slipping and will ensure that you can cut its full length. It's important to pick long zucchini and yellow squash and to cut their full length so you can roll them up with tapenade when they are cooked. Slice using vertical cuts as long as possible. Once the squash becomes precarious, flip to its side and start cutting the same thickness horizontally. This can be a dangerous cut, so go slowly and make sure your knife is sharp. This advice also applies if using a mandolin. Go slow and use a guard or a glove. Remember, a sharp knife goes where you want it to, a dull one goes where it wants to. When all the squash is sliced, cover with olive oil and salt the strips generously. This salt will pull out water, but more importantly bitterness from the squash, making for a sweeter finished product. Let them sit for about 15 minutes before thoroughly draining off the liquid. While they drain, we are going to preheat our oven to 400 with our baking sheets already in the oven. This will help our squash from sticking and give us a better texture. Next, we are going to prep our puree. We will start by heating a saucepan over medium-low heat before adding about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. As soon as you start to see a shimmer in the oil, add 2 minced shallots and a large pinch of salt to keep the onions from browning. As we've said before on this channel, if you don't want browning on vegetables, add salt beforehand. This will draw out water and give a barrier to prevent browning. When the shallots begin to lose their purple hue, add in 3 cloves of crushed garlic and cook until vegetables are nearly translucent. This will go very quickly from this point on. Don't walk away from the stove. You don't need to keep it moving constantly, but if it makes you feel better, you certainly can. Once there is no more purple and your onions and garlic are somewhat see-through, we're going to add in a half a cup of white wine, a bit more salt, and pepper to taste. You're going to reduce the wine by about half before adding in 2 cans of rinsed white cannellini beans and 3 tablespoons of thyme. We want to take away the bite of the wine and concentrate its flavor, but it's important not to over-reduce because this and some lemon juice is the only liquid we are adding to our puree. This recipe will make a very thick puree, so if you'd like to thin it out when it comes time to blend, add in about a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of vegetable stock or water when blending. Next, we are going to roast our squash on our prepared sheets. You can also pan fry them for better browning, but it will take longer, and too much of a crust will make them hard to roll. Our beans were fully cooked already before we added them to the pot, so we don't need to worry about cooking those through. We just want to heat them all the way through so they blend more smoothly, When they are hot, we are going to add them to our blender with the juice of half a lemon and 2 tablespoons of olive oil and blend until smooth. Then all that is left is assembly. Lay out your squash strips and spread an even layer of tapenade on each piece of squash before adding 2 basil leaves and rolling up the squash. Serve with your puree and enjoy. Remember, this, like all our recipes, is merely a template. You can easily add meat for more protein, toasted pine nuts for crunch, or even dried cherry tomatoes for a pop of extra sweet and savory. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a little something. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing, and I can't wait to cook with you all again soon.